Good morning and welcome to this meeting of the Oklahoma Aerospace Aeronautics Commission, December 11, 2024. The meeting notice was posted according to the requirements of the Open Meeting Act. This meeting will come to order. Please call the roll.
Congressional District Commissioner Seth Phillips.
Here.
Second Congressional District Commissioner Secretary Kevin Potter.
Here.
Third Congressional District Commissioner Chairman Charles Ortega.
Here.
Fourth Congressional District Commissioner Lindy Ritz.
Here.
Fifth Congressional District Commissioner Vice Chair Blake Rainey.
Here.
At-large Commissioner Jim Putnam. At-large Commissioner Jerry Hunter.
Here.
We have a quorum. The draft minutes of the October 9, 2024 Commission meeting has been sent to you, and a copy is in your meeting packet. Are there any corrections to the minutes before we consider them for approval? No corrections. I will accept a motion to approve the minutes. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Potter.
Abstain.
Chairman Ortega.
Yes.
Commissioner Ritz.
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey.
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Aye.
Motion passes. Before we continue, I want to welcome and recognize Representative Denise Crosswhite-Hader. I got the name right because I went through so many years of calling her Debbie, and I have no idea why. So welcome to the commission meeting. Item number 4, introduction of new staff member. Director Arties, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. We have one new staff member and one that is able to join us as well. So two introductions today. One is our new full-time staff member in Nancy Cheney. Jace, she replaces Jace, who departed us for Collins Aerospace a couple of months ago. And Nancy comes to us with a significant amount of consultant experience and actually some former state aviation experience. She served with one of our sister agencies in Arizona. So Nancy, why don't you introduce yourself? My favorite moment. Come on up.
Chairman and members of the commission, my name is Nancy Wiley-Cheney, and I'm really happy to be here. You have an outstanding talented group, and I'm really excited to be part of it and just work with them. And they're all fantastic. So thank you for welcoming me. It's been a great 8 days.
Welcome.
This is twice in consecutive years where we've welcomed a new team member the week of Women in Aviation Day. And I always promise them it gets calmer. It gets calmer. But yeah, Nancy started Women in Aviation Week last week. So. As did Caitlin last year. But anyway, the next person I want to introduce is our intern, Jordan Robinson from the OU Aviation Program. He is our fall intern, and he's doing some amazing things for us in the airports division shop. So Jordan, if you want to stand up, be recognized, come on up and say a few things about what you're doing in your life.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Jordan Robinson. As you said, I'm interning this semester and next at the ODAA. I'm a senior at the University of Oklahoma, where I study aviation management. I've been working a lot on a couple different projects so far, and it's been very exciting and a great experience, and very glad to be here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jordan. Glad to have both of them on board, and looking forward to getting Nancy all across the state of Oklahoma. So with that, I'll stand for any questions or comments.
Any questions, comments? If not, we'll move on to item number 5, election of officers for 2025. I will accept nominations for chair, vice chair, and secretary for 2025.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to recommend Blake Rainey for chairman, Kevin Potter for vice chairman, and Seth Phillips for secretary.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Potter.
Aye.
Chairman Ortega.
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Motion passes. On to item number 6, financial report. Chris, you're recognized, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. So starting out with the financial summary document, as of the end of November, the department had an ending cash balance of $23.7 million, with encumbrances totaling $24.4 million. Leaves us with an unencumbered cash balance of negative $616,000. Estimated statutory revenue for the remainder of FY25 is $13.8 million, and outstanding reimbursements owed to the agency total approximately $2.4 million. Total amount of remaining expenditures that could be incurred this fiscal year, which is the end of June, is $22.3 million, with the bulk of that being about $13.9 million in the airport construction program. Of course, that's dependent upon those projects being granted and approved by you. This would leave us with an expected available cash balance after those encumbrances and expected income of negative $6.6 million. I sound like a broken record, but we will never forget to negative $6.6 million. That would assume that all of those projects are paid out in full by that point. That will not happen, but goes to show again, we are moving forward with the money that we've been given. We are putting that into projects just as quick as Nick and his crew can. Total fiscal year-to-date expenditures were $9.6 million as of the end of November. For a little bit of context, the most we have ever spent in a fiscal year previously was about $11 million, and that was last year. So we have almost eclipsed our record amount through 5 months of this fiscal year, and we should eclipse that by the end of December would be my assumption. Moving on to revenue, total statutory revenue collected for the month of October was $1.1 million, and November's collection totaled just over $1 million. Total revenue collected through November this fiscal year is $3.1, compares to $3.4 million for the same time frame last year, so we're down about 10%. When I gave my report in October, we were down about 51%, so we have made some ground catching up over the last 2 months. Then finally, 3-year average comparison, we are down about $276,000 compared to what our 3-year average is, but again, we've cut that in about half over the last 2 months, so hopefully that trend will continue as we go forward into next calendar year. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, sir. Item number 7, legislative, congressional, regulatory update. Director Arties, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under A, information only, just talking about a few things. Obviously, we run through bill request deadline. It was last Friday, and had several agencies throughout the state of Oklahoma, and everyone getting in their bill requests. Obviously, now we're populating those with language to come up on the deadline in January for substantial language submission, where all the bills become public. Other activities in the legislative, congressional, regulatory realm, we have had an election since the last commission meeting, if you have been hiding under a rock. But as you see there, 81 Republicans, 20 Democrats on the House side. And on the Senate side, we have 39 Republicans, 8 Democrats, and 1 vacancy, which will be a special election held sometime in January, I think. Can't remember. Anyway, we have a lot of new faces and a lot of freshman lawmakers to be able to introduce. And so here we have had some announcements on the Senate side as to who our new chair and vice chairs will be, and Senator Darcy Yeck from Kingfisher will move to be the chair of the Aerospace and Transportation Committee. As you know, this was what Chairman John Haste used to have. He has been moved up to vice chair of full appropriations and budget, and then Senator Tom Woods will be the chair of the Appropriations Subcommittee on General Government Transportation, which is where we present to our budget requests. So lots of changes happening out there, and obviously Sandra and I are going to be working our best to go out and introduce ourselves with all the freshmen, with all the new committee members, and with all the new chairs and vice chairs of those respective committees. I know my calendar is filling up fast for the next couple of weeks. Sandra's been scheduling some meetings, so looking forward to that, and certainly excited about the opportunity to get with a new legislature in the 2025 legislative session. On the federal level, of course, with the implementation of or election of President Trump, the Republicans taking over the Senate, and of course the Republicans keeping the House. It's now going to be entirely Republican-dominated U.S. Capitol Hill. And so the next thing on the dais is trying to figure out what we're going to do for the FY25 appropriation cycles. We've had several continuing resolutions on the appropes. I think the current one runs out here, I think it's next week at some point. And so to be seen, are they going to get a full year bill, or are we going to continue a new CR into the new Congress moving forward, and how long will that CR be if we are going to go to the CR? Is it going to take us to January, February, March? To be determined. Obviously, that'll have an impact on the FAA grant program. The longer we get the CRs, the further out in the construction cycle we will get our grants issued from the FAA. So to be determined there, and that's the thing we're looking for. Of course, we're still under the 5-year reauthorization. Very glad that Congress was able to get that completed earlier this year. So we're in that 5-year reauthorization window. But of course, as you know, it's a two-part dance in the federal world. You have to have the authorization and then the appropriation to go with it. So certainly an exciting time as we gear up for the 2025 legislative session, gear up for a new Congress at the federal level, and introducing ourselves to all the new cabinet members. Saw the nomination for the Secretary of Transportation. There's been some discussions about some of the other positions. We work most closely with the Associate Administrator of Airports, and of course that's a political appointee. It doesn't require Senate confirmation, but it's a political appointee. So waiting to see who President Trump nominates for that. Of course, that's well on down the pecking order in terms of people that he's having to introduce. So I'm not expecting to know who the Associate Administrator of Airport is until next year, but certainly interested to see who that will be, as that's the person we work most closely with on the airport grant program side of things. So with that being said, I'll stand for any questions on item A before we move to B on the action item.
Any questions? Go ahead, sir.
Item B, we have 2 items to consider adding to our legislative slate for the 2025 session. A couple of ideas that have come to us as an agency request that we move forward with. First is an update to the engine test cell program. As you know, that passed last legislative session. That was for traditional engine MRO, anything from small piston engines to small turbine engines to the large turbine engines that are on the 777 or the 74 or the 78 aircraft. And now, given the space industry is moving up, there's been some discussions about how to expand the engine test cell program to not just traditional turbine and piston engine testing, but space engine testing as well, as we want to be seen as a go-to manufacturing hub for space engines in addition to traditional aviation engines. So that's item number 1. The second one is the engineer tax credits for aerospace are going to expire next year. Next year is the last year of that they're certainly authorized. As we know, that's a tax incentive that's very important to the state of Oklahoma, one of the best aerospace-specific tax incentives that we have out there in the state of Oklahoma, and so we want to extend and continue that particular tax incentive. So those are the 2 items that we'd like to add to the slate for this year. I'll stand for any questions, but staff recommends moving forward with approval for adding these 2 items to our legislative slate for 2025.
Any questions, comment? None? Do I have a motion to approve item B?
Move approval.
Second.
Second. Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner Potter,
Aye.
Chairman Ortega,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Motion passes. Item number 8, Airport Construction Grant Program Change Order. Michelle, you're recognized.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I'm just here to make you aware of an amendment to a project at Broken Bow in which we installed a self-service fuel system. So they had to do an amendment for additional work that was required due to unsuitable soil, the removal of that, and an additional or an addition of an SPCC plan. The additional cost was $12,280. We split that in half with the sponsor, with our share being $6,140. So we used Grayson's authority, just letting you know what happened. I'll stand for any questions.
Okay, seeing no questions. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Michelle. Moving on to item number 9, the 5-year airport construction program. Mr. Young, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. This first item on number 9, this is a request to consider approving an amendment to add 3 different projects to our airport construction program. The first being a hangar project at Alva Regional Airport. This is to construct a 120 by 100 box hangar for a total project cost anticipated to be about $1.6 million. Partnered with some FAA funding at $594,060, with the department share of that being $640,000, and the local match there at $365,940 anticipated. The second project we're seeking to add to the airport construction program would be for a 3,000-gallon Jet A fuel truck at Claremore Regional Airport as part of our fuel program. This would be a 50-50 proposition, total project cost at $304,790, with the local and department split at $152,395. Again, this is kind of just the first time that we'd be looking to branch out into fuel trucks in addition to our fuel systems, given the need that we've heard throughout the Oklahoma airport system over the past several months as we've been kind of right-sizing and finding the right way to support our airports across the state. And last but not least, at Tulsa International Airport, this project would be to construct a plane spotting and viewing area near the terminal to include educational elements, signage, and playground equipment. You can also think of that as an area where kind of a secondary cell phone lot where if you got some kids and you're waiting to pick up some folks from the airport, you could go hang out over there, sightsee, and get a little bit of an aviation education while watching some planes take off and land as well. Total project cost on that is anticipated at $750,000, of which the department share would be $100,000. Staff recommends approval to add these 3 projects to the airport construction program. I stand for any questions.
Any questions, comments?
I'm really excited to see item C. Tulsa International needs something like that. I know, the Riverside Airport, Jinx, South Tulsa, that's how I got into aviation. My mother and father would bring me out there and watch airplanes. So, I mean, this, like, C
And
is
that's
awesome.
exactly why we want to
Yeah.
pursue it.
So
We
it's
think that's so important.
getting
I think many of us have that similar
Yeah.
story.
Getting the kids involved, that's awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So what brought up the fuel truck?
The fuel truck, as we were expanding the fuel systems across the state, we kept hearing different feedback of, whether or not they could fix different components of the system or this or that. And one of the biggest needs that we kept hearing across from several, including Claremore, is for fuel trucks, just so to be able to serve their clientele. Sometimes it's the folks that we've had some that want to install a Jet A self-serve, and then you have others that, well, frankly, the jet pilot doesn't even want to get out and touch the fuel tank. So it's trying to find the right the needs for the folks that are flying into these different airports and the different caliber of airports that they are. And so they were, as we were working through our capital improvement plans, this is one of the needs that we saw at several areas, including Claremore, to try to expand our fuel program to really assist and help the municipalities where they were having the biggest struggle to overcome the different items that they were needing to provide the services at their facilities.
Claremore doesn't have a Jet A in ground, right? Or are you saying the truck? Is
So
it gonna be either or?
So they don't have self-serve. They just have the truck itself.
Yeah, okay.
But that truck, I believe, is a 1986 model or so, and so it's just maintenance intensive, and then also trying to pass those inspections and those types of things is getting harder and harder for some of the older equipment.
You are aware most fuel companies that they buy their fuel from provide leasing programs to provide those trucks.
Because I know Phillips does it.
Right.
And
Avfuel does.
Huh?
Avfuel does.
Okay, well, I just know Phillips does it because they,
Oh, does it?
It does.
I
They
thought you
do.
said
Yeah,
doesn't.
they do,
yeah, Phillips does it because they got them stacked up
Yeah.
out there half the time
Avfuel does it as well.
Yeah.
at the air, pretty sure Epic Fuel does.
Yep.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Right.
that's,
And a lot of that has to do with the quantities served and those types of things as well. And that barrier is also one of the things that we've gotten feedback from folks. Because in order to qualify for some of those levels of leases and those types of things, some of our airports not able to meet those quantity requirements. I don't know if that's the case for Claremore specifically, but.
Okay.
Any more questions, comments? None? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve item 9?
I make a motion to approve it.
Do I have a second? Okay. I'll second the motion. Any further discussion, comments? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner Potter,
well, for the, it's either or, right? All of it.
Can we break, can we break it out?
You can pull
Yeah,
a
we-
project out of there, Commissioner, if you would like.
Let's
The-
pull item B out.
That's what, I think we pulled
Yeah.
B out.
What I'd like to see is further information coming back. Is it that
I mean,
it
I-
can't
So I guess.
qualify?
I guess
for
we can
the
have a
truck?
discussion.
Yeah, let's have a discussion on item B. So at the end of the day, we have a 1986 fuel truck at Claremore. As a jet driver that's coming into an airport, do you want to be fueling your jet out of a 1986 truck that may or may not meet standards? And yes, there are leasing provisions that are out there, and in that leasing provision certainly is an option. But at the end of the day, as we all know, a lot of our airports aren't meeting the fuel requirements to get those, what we call free trucks. And at the end of the day, when it's a city-operated FBO, an entity, we, the state, are simply providing this as an option to help successfully move forward with that particular airport's fueling operation. We have discussed doing a full-service fuel option or a self-service fuel option when it comes to Jet A, but I think, as we know, Jet A just isn't there when it comes to self-service. And so the fuel truck, if you look back at the rules that were approved, the fuel truck is an option. The mobile, the fixed, we can do both at an airport. And I think a lot of our airports, if you look around the state, have some pretty old fuel trucks. And those are the airports that don't meet the fuel threshold guidelines for that. And actually, we've run into this situation before, that if your fuel tank is X number of years old, not the fuel truck, but the tank that you're actually holding it out of, ConocoPhillips won't endorse it, Epic won't endorse it. And that's part of the reason why we're doing these fuel system upgrades across the state, is so that we can get back to branded fuel. Right now, a lot of our fuel systems are unbranded across the state. So that's why the fuel truck is important at a Claremore, which is kind of like a de facto reliever airport to the Tulsa metro area, is we're getting complaints, not just at Claremore, but across the system, that jet drivers aren't wanting to fuel up. I mean, it's the same situation that happened in Guthrie. Now, Guthrie was a private FBO that sold and went to a different entity, and the first thing that they did was bought a fuel truck, because of the fact that the fuels, the 19, I think that was 19, probably 70s model fuel truck just wasn't what a lot of the aircraft, a lot of the jet drivers wanting to fuel up of. So that's the whole logic behind why we're starting to get into the fuel providing and the fuel infrastructure support game, is to help our communities provide the best level of aviation service across the system.
I would
That's-
offer that I understand perfectly, and it's our mission to provide service to the tarmac, lighting systems, AWAS systems, all the things that are necessary for an airport to run. Where I start having a problem is with hangars. Sorry, that's your local community. If you want your airport to grow, you build you some hangars. That shouldn't fall on the state to fund. And when it comes to fuel trucks, that's your day-to-day operations of your FBO. And the state has no business helping a city to run their airport. If you, as a city, cannot run your airport and live within a budget, maybe you need to reevaluate whether or not you need an airport. That fuel trucks should be the city's job. That is the cost of operating your airport. Next, we'll be paying for the groundskeeping crew, and they'll expect help with that. It's a steady slide from what we were originally tasked with, which is tarmac, AWAS, lighting, fundamental airport functionality that is well above the cost that most municipalities can brace for, down to hangars, and now you're at fuel trucks. I disagree. I don't think we should get into, that should be the city's issue. They can afford a fuel truck.
I would.
They afford garbage trucks. They afford street keeping trucks. They can do that.
And I certainly understand that a lot of larger communities could afford something like that. I think in this case, if we are going to be a pro-growth minded airport system, that we're not going to get into the operational, we're not going to go pay to spray cracks with weed killer, and we're not going to go pay to replace light bulbs. But I see a fuel truck as a critical pro-growth aviation infrastructure element, and that's why it was included in the rules that were approved as a part of this process. And again, we don't have to do fuel trucks, but if we're not going to do fuel trucks, I think that leaves out a subset of aviation, a growth-minded aviation system. And, you know, we're going to have a beautiful terminal building, we'll have some nice hangars, but we're still going to have a 1986 fuel truck. And is that the perception that we want as a state, as people are coming to Oklahoma? Or are we looking at having the full totality of a pro-growth airport system? That's the reason why we talked about it.
Isn't that the responsibility of the FBO, though?
What?
Isn't that the responsibility of the FBO?
Well, in a lot of cases, so this is not, we're not funding these trucks for private FBOs. These are for city-operated fuel systems.
Why not? I mean, if you're providing them for the city, you should provide them for the private FBOs as well, because they take that expense off the city.
Well, so the private FBO.
Exactly my point. You don't have
is-
any business doing either.
There are certain cities that an FBO is not going to make money at that airport. A private FBO won't make money at that airport. That's why you see private FBOs at Will Rogers, Wiley Post, Tulsa Riverside, Tulsa International, but at airports like Weatherford or Enid or Claremore in this case, it's the city that's operating the fuel services out of there. And at the end of the day, I don't know that you're going to have a private FBO come in there to be able to operate that on a for-profit basis. So that's where the city steps up and provides the fuel.
And that's where they should be pricing that fuel at a price per gallon that enables them to buy their own equipment to serve that fuel. It's not a tough calculation. There's a price per gallon, and in that price per gallon, you have the cost of the fuel and the cost of providing it. If it's an extra 25 cents a gallon, it's an extra 25 cents a gallon.
So how many of these have we done?
So this would be the first fuel truck
That's what
that
I
we've
thought.
done. So this is, we have been in the fuel system providing game for about the last year and a half, 2 years. This would be the first truck that we have done since the rules have been amended to allow us to do fixed or mobile Jet A or avgas systems. So at the end of the day, that's why we're having this discussion, is based on those rule changes. And again, that, you know, we didn't have any discussion at that point in time about fixed and mobile, but that's why you're seeing this project here, is we have advertised that to the airport system, and Claremore was the first one that was looking to take advantage of the grant program to support a fuel truck. We wouldn't support a lease necessarily, because that is a year-to-year kind of proposition, but if we're going to fund a one-time purchase and kind of hard infrastructure to support that, then the thought process and the reason why we went through this was, again, if we're trying to be a pro-growth aviation state, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have nice terminal building, nice in-ground fuel system or above-ground permanent fuel system, nice hangar facilities, but then have a 1986 fuel truck out there.
So was mobile in the rules also that we
Yes.
approved?
Yes.
Okay.
What kind of jet traffic are they getting right now? I realize probably a lot of that's discouraged if they don't have the truck, but what's the jet activity out there?
I think we have the airport manager. He can maybe.
Megan Knight with the Economic Development as well as Colby Lender, the
How long is the runway at Claremore?
My name is Colby Lender. I'm the airport manager of Claremore Regional Airport. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. I think Nick and Grayson had touched on a lot of it. Our current truck that's in service is a 1986. It's prone to all kinds of issues, from oil leaks to power steering fluid leaks. It's got a lot of unknown history. I don't even really have a full record of where it originally came from, how old the tank is on it. We keep the filters up to date as part of our fuel requirements, but outside of that, a lot of it is unknown knowledge to us. So this, not only from a operational standpoint, but from a safety standpoint as well, a new truck would kind of let us start fresh to get on page with where we need to be with our fuel requirements. And as Grayson had said there, the Claremore Airport has a lot of really nice facilities. And one of the most common comments that we receive whenever we get these Citations or Falcons that pull up really nice aircraft, and then you have a 1986 truck pull up to fuel, and as you're pulling up, it's squealing and squeaking and blowing smoke, and it just kind of takes away that impression that the crew originally had from landing at the airport to maybe this airport isn't as nice as we originally thought it was.
How long have you owned this truck?
That's a great question. I was, from what I understand, is it's been in the airport possession for at least the past 10 to 15 years.
So do you not maintain your truck?
So we do as much as we can. I don't have any diesel
Power
mechanics
steering
on
pumps?
staff. So we try to do everything we can. If we notice a leak or anything of that sort, it gets contracted out to local mechanics to come out and visit the field, service the truck as needed.
How long is the runway at Claremore?
5,200 feet.
Okay. How many jets land each month?
I would say we are in the range of 20 to 30 a month.
My point would be that our first duty is to the airports of this state to provide them with assistance with tarmac, lighting systems, AWAS, to build functional airports. In all years past, correct me if I'm wrong, it's always been the responsibility of an airport to provide their own trucks. We've never done this before. Do we really want to go down that road? Because the minute you start providing it to them, they start expecting it. Every truck that we fund for them is funds that we cannot use to improve the condition of concrete, lighting systems, or enhancements to an airport. And we have an obligation to the taxpayer, a fiduciary duty, to accomplish the mission that they're funding us to do. And that mission isn't to start giving away trucks or spending that money on things of that nature when our first priority should be to fund the airports themselves. Do we agree on that?
I think, Commissioner Ortiz, if you can answer this question for me, we are and have participated in the infrastructure for fuel delivery systems for airports. Is that not correct?
And that's a fairly new thing.
Does your airport have a fuel delivery system other than the truck right now? Storage capacity?
Yes, so we have 8,000-gallon tanks for both avgas and Jet A.
Are they self-serve? Self-service?
Both offer self-serve.
So this would be just another option for you to,
To an extent, yes. Whenever you get into the light to medium-sized jets, I only have a 50-foot hose on that. it may not be able to safely park that aircraft close to that dispenser, that wingtip would be getting awfully close to the self-serve dispenser.
I probably have, at my airport, roughly 400 to 500 jet landings a month. I don't have a self-serve jet fuel system. It's all served out of trucks. If your money was spent on a self-serve jet fuel system with low volume like that, your money should have been spent on a truck to begin with. That should have been the first priority. How much was spent on that self-serve jet fuel system that nobody uses?
So to be honest with you, I don't have the answer to that. I have only been the airport manager of Claremore since April of this year. I would be able to get you that
Do we know how much
information.
we provided in grant to subsidize that jet fuel self-serve system?
The self-serve system was installed many years ago before we ever participated in fuel systems.
Okay.
So that was no state money went into that fuel system. Yeah.
Would you, excuse me, you said that we had approved in the rules for the trucks to, can you recap that for us?
Yes, correct. So in the last iteration of the emergency rules that were approved, I believe it would have been back in the spring, if I'm not mistaken, we added a mobile component to the fuel system projects. So essentially, you know, an airport could choose, we're going to go for a fixed or a mobile, and what fuel type they would want to do, Jet A or avgas. And the concept being, what we were hearing from the airport community and from the legislature was, if we're going to be pro-growth minded in the aviation system, we need to have a all-the-above approach to ensure that pro-growth mentality. And some airports need self-service, some airports need full service. And not every airport out there needs a truck. But there's a certain subset of airports that are city-owned, airport sponsor-owned FBOs that want to provide that full-service truck facility. And so that's where this concept came in, was we offered the mobile option for those airports that had in-ground tanks. And again, you can't just have a mobile option. You have to have a tank, whether the tank is self-service or it's just simply a storage tank. You have to have the tank to go from the tank to the truck. Because as you know, this truck is 3,000 gallons. Most of the tanks are in the 8, 10, 12,000 gallon range. That's your storage tank. So yes, it was in the rules that were approved to add that as a component based on some of the conversations we've had over the last several years.
In light of that, if you have further comments?
Well, is there some type of verbiage or something that says that we're not responsible for maintaining the truck? Say that this does pass, and I mean, who is responsible for doing filters?
where'd you
and
draw
all
the
that?
So maintenance of an airport has always been on the airport. So when we go out and we put a large overlay down on the runway, they are responsible for maintaining that. From a grass encroachment perspective, from a annual crack ceiling perspective, same thing for the truck. We would be buying the truck, but the responsibility of maintaining it is on the airport. And same thing for a fixed fuel system, same thing for a hangar. We do major purchases, we do major installations, we do major rehabilitations. We're not in the maintenance ball game.
Like Commissioner Hunter is saying, though, I could see where this just goes off into a rabbit hole of, okay, we've gotten you a truck, now, okay, can you splurge on filters and oil change and tires and all? I mean,
We've never provided a truck to any airport in the state of Oklahoma.
yeah.
Do we really want to start?
Well, Director, the question I have, it sounds like when we approve that we could do this, it's pretty wide open as far as the criteria. So as a minimum, depending on how we do this going forward, do we want to have certain criteria if we're going to get into buying a truck so it's not wide open?
Well, and the rules state that we don't do maintenance. So
Right,
the
but I'm
rules-
talking
right.
about
We're not
age
about
and
maintenance.
underground versus what's,
Right.
yeah.
Right. So, I mean, it's all, again, it's up to you guys to decide what your preferences are. We're merely going by the rules that were previously approved and offering this up as an option because this is what the airports had told us was a desire of theirs. And so this, again, first project that we have right out of the gate to discuss this. And if there's tighter parameters that we need around it, we can certainly discuss that. But again, I would say it would be, if we are really going to be a pro-growth aviation system, this is a critical element to ensuring we have the pro-growth mentality.
And if I may, just one of those requirements that is in the rules is that it must be a new fuel truck. In terms of aging, it must be a brand-new fuel truck purchase.
I don't think it's something we want to start.
Okay.
We are pro-growth. We will build airports. We will subsidize airports, but that is airport operations. I don't think.
Seeing
My
as
answer's
we
gonna be
have
no.
considered Section B as a separate discussion, why don't we go ahead and take a vote on items A and C so we can move on, and then we will take a vote on item B. Is that good for
Fine.
everybody? Okay? All right. Do I have a motion to vote on item 9, items A and C?
I'll make a motion to approve item 9, or items A and C of item 9.
Have a second? Okay. Any more discussion on those two? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
Chairman Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes on A and C. Now we'll consider the vote on item 9, number B. Do I have a motion to approve?
With the criteria.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the criteria you're
Go
talking
ahead.
about. Go ahead.
And I'll second it. Go ahead.
You articulated it.
Well, here's my only consent to it. I would, it's not their fault. It's not
No.
Claremore's fault
It's not
whatsoever.
Claremore's fault.
Absolutely nothing.
But
You're just
without
going by
history-
what the rules are, but when I was looking over this weekend, I said, wow, we're buying fuel trucks now. And so my only thing is I would say we approve it, but with the amendment that we go back and we amend the rules. I mean, and look at the rules again and look at how we're gonna do this. I don't want to open up a whole can of worms that we're going to start buying fleets of trucks.
Exactly.
I mean, that's my biggest concern, and it's nothing against Claremore whatsoever.
I love Claremore, but the fact is, we have a duty to the taxpayers.
I know, and that's the only way I can see it. If we can go back, again, it's not,
So your motion would be with the caveat that we
That
go
we go
back
and
and look at that.
look at the, and amend.
Tighten it up.
And look at these rules.
So it almost have to be extenuating circumstances.
Well,
that
we
you would
screwed
buy
up
that.
in approving those rules in the first.
Well, we probably
I'm
did.
just saying, we did that.
Yeah.
Nobody else but us did that. And so I'm just taking that responsibility
Right.
at this point. But we need to fix them, I think. But it's nothing against the current thing. That's just it.
Nothing against Claremore,
I know.
but I don't think it's something I want.
But that's my
I'm
motion.
not gonna start.
I would second it with the caveat.
Okay. Motion with a caveat to
Go back and we'll look at the
Review
rules
the
and
rules.
review the rules and vote on them again on this particular issue, on the mobile portion. You understand what I'm saying?
I do. Mr. Arties, let me ask you a question. And it's all, I think this commission should take responsibility for the approval of the rules and this being a part of those rules.
You're sitting.
Is this something that we can revisit at a later date, the next meeting?
Yes, so the permanent rule process, as you all recall, is going through the process right now. So what was in the emergency rules was simply copied over to the permanent rules. That will come before you for approval at the January meeting to meet the rules requirements. If you guys want to pull out mobile, then you're welcome to do so. And at that point in time, we would just no longer be offering mobile as an option. If that is what you guys so desire, we could do that at the January meeting, I believe, which is what was originally scheduled to approve the permanent rules to go through that process, because the legislature has moved up the rules timeline to the January meeting.
Okay. So taking into consideration that we approve the rules, this project was brought up in good faith, a request for the grant. I believe that we should go ahead and take a vote on it with the caveat we revisit the rules. And if you want to vote on it, you can. If you don't, that is up to you. But I think we owe it to the city of Claremore to honor what we have put in motion as a commission.
That's true.
And so,
I think you establish a precedent when you do that.
unless we change the rules.
So you've got a rule that you pass for one agency in the entire state.
That's what we did.
Yeah, that's.
I can entertain a motion. I can entertain a motion to table this and consider it later on. I mean, that's.
But you've got a
I would make a
and
motion to
second on
table
that.
it and
We have a
consider it
motion right
after we
now,
reevaluate our rules.
But there's already a motion on the table. Sorry about that. So we have a motion to approve. We have a second with a caveat. Any further discussion, questions? If not, we'll go ahead and call the roll, please, on a motion to approve item B with a caveat that we revisit the rules.
Commissioner Phillips?
You gotta make me go first.
You have to just get out there.
Just throw it out.
Yeah, you can handle it.
Considering the rules that are in place, I have to say aye. I have to vote yes.
Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
Chairman Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
No.
Okay. Motion passes.
Thank you all for taking into consideration and hearing my part.
You betcha.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for being here. Moving on to item number 10. Airport Construction Grant Program Consent Docket. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So now we've added those three, and we're looking to go on to grant approval of some other projects, one of which we'll circle back to item B here. But the first is for Broken Bow Municipal Airport. This is a state grant that we're considering to rehabilitate their runway 1735. Total project cost based on the bids is $1,268,300. This is a 95.5 state grant for this rehabilitation, so the local share of that being $63,415. I know that Randy and Vicky were going to try to make it out. I don't think I saw either of them. But as we know, the trip from Broken Bow is often tough, especially whenever you're the city manager wearing a bunch of different hats. So they definitely send their regards and appreciation for their consideration of approval of that project. Item B here would be for the approval of the 3,000-gallon fuel truck that we just discussed after adding to the ACP. So this would actually be the approval of the grant itself. I think we had plenty of discussion there, but if we do need any addition, please just let me know. For C, this would be approving the design costs for a project at Oltmoe Regional Airport. This is to rehabilitate their lighting and signage for runway 1836. Total cost of the design is estimated to be $41,500 at a 95-5 split. The state grant funds being $39,425,000 of that portion. At Prague Municipal Airport, this is another project we're seeking design costs on for the rehabilitation of their runway. Design phase of that project is estimated to be $56,000 at another 95.5 proposition. The department's share of that being the $53,200. I think that's flipped on the slide there, so my apologies on that. And last but not least, this would be consideration of a grant to approve at University of Oklahoma Max Westheimer Airport for their air traffic control tower. Based on bids, the total project cost for the air traffic control tower is $14,871,118.92. This will be funded primarily with federal grant funds at $14,258,208.50, with the state portion of that being half the local match at $306,455.21. I know we have Lance Lampkin here, the airport administrator with OU. So Lance, if you'd like to come say a few words.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it. Commissioners, wonderful to see you all this morning. This is 25 years in the making. Our current air traffic control tower is too short. It's not secure according to FAA standards or TSA standards. It does not meet ADA requirements. It was built in 1982, and if you want to go even further, the cab itself was actually constructed in 1940s. We moved it from Tinker to OUN back in 1982. So this has been a long time coming. We have had the ability to secure quite a bit of federal funds for this project that is greatly needed for our airport with such a high training demand through the University of Oklahoma. So thank you for your consideration on this project.
Being here.
And staff recommends approval. Obviously, we can split any of these out that we would like, and I stand for any questions.
You're going to have to split item B out if you want me to vote yes on the others.
Okay, there's been a request to separate item B. For further discussion. Item B.
No, you're just going to have to separate it out, otherwise my vote's going to be no on all.
Okay, very good. Anyone else? Okay, do I have a motion to approve item 10, sections A, C, D, and E?
I will make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second, okay. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner Potter,
Aye.
Chairman Ortega,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter,
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Now, do I have a motion to approve item 10, section B?
Isn't this what we just did?
But just,
Yes,
this
sir.
is actually awarding that grant,
Okay.
Yeah.
which is, oof.
Do I have a
So-
motion to approve?
The same motion?
Yes, so the item
Just like that.
projects to the construction program.
Okay.
Item 10 is the actual granting of those projects, granting of those dollars. So
But it'd be the same concept. that-
Same concept if that's what you guys want, correct?
Correct.
Now you're approved.
So that same motion.
Okay.
Second.
Second, have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner Potter,
Aye.
Chairman Ortega,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter,
No.
On your toes.
Okay, motion carries. Moving on to item number 11, airport project consultant approval consent docket. Mr. Young, you're recognized to continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and not to be confusing, but this item is very similar to the previous. With Carlton Landing, obviously, we act as agent in general, but we also have several other airports across the state that have requested that the department act as agent to help them through some of their projects, especially on the design phase of these. And so the first project here would be considering approval for the staff to enter into a contract for a design phase at Carlton Landing Airport for designing a partial perimeter fence on the west side to help mitigate some of the wildlife concerns out there. Design phase of that project is anticipated to be $45,200, and since that is one of our airports, that would be completely with $45,200 of state funds. On to the next one. This is Pauls Valley Municipal Airport has requested that we enter into a design contract with them to do their partial reconstruction and rehabilitation of runway 1735. Based on estimates, the design phase of that is going to be $582,900. That will be funded primarily with the federal grant of $524,610, and the remainder of that split between the department and the sponsor at $29,145. And a trio of projects at Shawnee Regional Airport, where we are acting as agent to help them through their litany of projects out there as well. The first being the design phase of a taxiway to support their southeastern development area. Design phase of that project anticipated at $312,600, and anticipated a 95.5 proposition at $296,970 of state funds, and this is in conjunction with some of the appropriations from this past fiscal year for the Shawnee Regional Airport as well. The second project, it would be for the design phase of two 10-unit T-hangar buildings to rebuild what they lost out there from the tornado. Design phase of that project anticipated at $121,500. Again, in a 95.5 proposition with the state portion of that, $115,425. The last design project at Shawnee Regional Airport requesting at this point is a new T-hangar taxi lane, as well as the rehabilitation of their existing main, their primary taxi lane. Design phase of that project is $225,700, and $214,415 of that being state funded. And the last request here for the design contract would be at Sallisaw Municipal Airport. This be for the design phase of the rehabilitation of their runway out there. Design phase of that project anticipated $181,700. This would be in conjunction with a FAA grant, so $163,530 of that would be through FAA grant funds, with the remainder being split between the department and the sponsor at $9,085 between the two. Staff recommends approval for these design phase contracts, and I stand for any questions you may have.
Item D, is this something new beyond what was damaged by the tornado?
So with this was, you say which item?
On the
Delta?
Shawnee, the T-hangars?
Okay, so going back.
Yeah, so that would be part of what was destroyed. And so it's basically building back what they had before.
Okay, is insurance a part of that?
And so all of these projects, since we're acting as agent, one of the things that we're actually working to do is to help coordinate all of their insurance dollars to each of so the terminal building, all of
Okay.
those projects we added this last time around. I think there was a slate of 5 different projects that we added to the ACP. Essentially, we're working with the city to maximize the insurance funding that they're getting to go into these projects. I will say that they were, much like a lot of folks, especially after the pandemic, severely underinsured. And so what we're trying to do is maximize what they get back by trying to maximize the insurance funding and then following that up with the appropriation that was intended to help them.
And making up the difference?
Right.
Copy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve item 11?
Move
So
to
moved.
approve.
Yep. Second.
Okay, have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner Potter,
Aye.
Chairman Ortega,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 12, Clinton Sherman contract approval consent docket. Mr. Young, you're recognized to continue.
Thank you, Chairman. For this item, another airport that we are acting as agent on behalf of, and the second phase of their pavement rehabilitation project is ready to move forward. This will be for the remaining portions that have yet to be rehabilitated of runway 17 right, 35 left. Based on the bids that we received, total project cost is $3,195,874. This would be covered with the prep funds that were designated to OSIDA. And then the second item here would be a project for the electrical rehabilitation for their lighting and signage on the same runway, to do them both while the runway is closed at one time, because the Air Force would really like for that runway to be down as minimally as possible. And so based on bids, the electrical portion of that project is $2,650,598, again, being funded with OSIDA's prep funding that was allocated toward them. Staff recommends approval. I stand for any questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner Potter,
Aye.
Chairman Ortega,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. On to item number 13, on-demand airport consultant contract change order. Mr. Young?
Thank you. And for this item, it's pretty straightforward. We entered into several different contracts to make sure that we are getting the correct oversight of all the projects that we have coming through the pipeline. And so one of the things that we found is with those projects, a lot of them require independent fee estimates. So we requested initially for $20,000. We are about, coming up on 5 to 6 months through the fiscal year and coming very close to that $20,000 threshold right now for the independent fee estimates we've had to receive. I had to request for some of the projects that we've been working toward. And so I'm simply asking that we double that to $40,000 to make sure that we can get all the required independent fee estimates that we need throughout the remainder of the federal fiscal year, or excuse me, the state fiscal year.
Any questions? No? Okay, do I have a motion to approve 13?
Move approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
Chairman Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Thank you, Ms. Young. Item 14, Air Service Development Grant Program. Director Ardis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we go down the pathway of doing air service development for our 4 commercial airports, Lawton Fort Sill's approached us for a little bit of funding to support their catchment study to quantify their leakage and capture numbers to hopefully support their efforts on down the road to get after some larger dollars to help bring a new direct flight to Lawton. As you know, right now, they have between 4 and 7 daily directs to DFW on American, but they would like to try and make to another hub destination on potentially either another airline or American to Chicago, maybe United to Denver, something on Delta to Salt Lake or Atlanta. And so they're asking us to support the through the traditional air service development number of 80/20. So $35,000 total project cost, $28,000 coming from the state, $7,000 of matching dollars. Staff recommends approval, but I'll stand for any questions or comments.
Any questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve item 14?
So move.
Got a motion to approve, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
Chairman Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Item 15, Progressing Rural Economic Prosperity Fund Update. Director Ardis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So PrEP funding, we have a lot of projects that are underway in the PrEP funding category right now. The 4 major projects, Tulsa Towers under construction. At Woodward, they have the hangar, the taxi lane, the terminal building, and the utilities. All 4 projects are under construction right now, and they're in the final design phases for their runway extension and taxiway extension projects. And their apron reconstruction project. At Ardmore, Taxiway Echo, which is their main taxiway for the south end, the third parallel piece of the parallel on the south end of the runway to support the air cargo is under construction. I know the airport manager is very hopeful that the runway will be opened back up by end of the week as they're working in the safety area. Next phase, once the runway is open, they'll be able to start on the air cargo apron piece, which is adjacent to the parallel taxiway. And then they're in design phase right now of the entrance road, the site utilities to support that air cargo mission. And then last but not least, if anyone's been to Will Rogers on a commercial flight lately, you've seen a lot of that construction on the north end of AAR. I think they've poured footings, and they're either working to pour this week or I think sometime next week, depending on weather, the foundation for that large 3-bay 737 MRO hangar. So great things happening with our big 4 PrEP projects. Of course, a lot of our the hangars from the hangar competitive program are under construction. Right now we have anywhere from a dozen to a dozen and a half projects that are either under construction or wrapping up in the hangar realm right now. So good things happening. Obviously, we're going to report that to the legislature, just as I've reported it to you today at our budget hearing, which will be likely later this month or sometime in the month of January. So we're trying to get those dollars in the ground, trying to put them into infrastructure across the state of Oklahoma, and we're very excited to see the change to the system as a whole with these one-time dollars that were allocated to us in the fall of 2022. With that, I will stand for any questions or comments that you might have. I would encourage you to keep your calendars available in 2025, as we'll have plenty of ribbon cuttings and celebrations to go to as these projects come to completion.
Any comments? Seeing none. Director Hart is recognized for item 16, Unmanned Aircraft Systems Infrastructure Investment Program.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as you all have approved in the past, we've had several new UAS AAM infrastructure projects across the state of Oklahoma. The first, obviously, was the Radar Infrastructure Investment Program out at Burns Flat for the Kratos flying mission. And as you know, the legislature has provided a total of $9 million to support UAS AAM infrastructure investment across the state. And really, the three-phase project. This is the third and final phase of that $9 million investment. The first phase was what's happening out at Burns Flat. The second phase, which you all approved last year, was supporting the Tulsa Advanced Air Mobility and UAS mission. And then the third one that you see here is supporting the Oklahoma Air National Guard's desire to turn Camp Gruber into a UAS test site, both for the homeland civilian mission as well as potentially the overseas defense mission. And so we've been working with them. They have, if you don't know Camp Gruber, it's tens of thousands of acres. They have about a 500-acre parcel of land that's fairly flat that they believe that if we can get this test site stood up, that National Guard Bureau DC will select Oklahoma as kind of the go-to UAS, counter-UAS testing for Guard units across the country. Obviously, what that means for Oklahoma is a feather in our cap for being a UAS test site state, but additional missions, additional potential economic development activity in form of testing coming to our state. Just like we do with airport projects, right now we're looking to program up to $2.5 million to support their test site missions. Of course, that's just a small sliver of the overall plan that they have for Camp Gruber. And the first project that we're looking to approve, of course, is the master plan and site development study with a cost of just under $89,000. And so at the end of the day, we've been working with the National Guard, General Chris Eason, Representative Chris Kennedy, who is a supporter of the National Guard and their JAG, working with them for probably the better part of the last 18 months to come up with how is it that the state can support, now that we have some firm costs on Kratos and we're getting some firm costs on Tulsa. We know what we can allocate and appropriate to the Camp Gruber test site. So that's where we're at. I know the National Guard is excited about this. This is something that they have long wanted to, if you've heard the National Guard story, I know we heard a little bit from Chris Eason at the Oklahoma Women Aviation Day on Friday, that the Oklahoma National Guard as a whole, both Air National Guard and regular Guard, have a lot of firsts in the country. There's a lot of things that we can be proud of as a state by our National Guard units and the missions that they serve both abroad and at home. And so this will be another feather in the cap for the National Guard, and obviously a feather in our cap as an agency that's supporting this new and upcoming industry and making sure that our state is seen as a go-to test site. So I'll stop there, stand for any questions or comments that you might have.
Any questions? Is the director, is the $2.5 million the appropriation?
So the appropriation, we got a $5 million appropriation from PrEP, and then in the last 2 years of regular appropriation cycle, we've had $2 million each year for UAS AAM infrastructure investments. So 5, 2, and 2, that gives us the total of $9 million of potential appropriations to invest in UAS AAM infrastructure across the state.
Okay. Questions? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve item 16?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
Chairman Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Aye.
Motion's approved. Item number 17, Aerospace Aviation Education Program Update. Ms. Keady, tell us something good.
Okay, I'll try. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. As always, I'm really happy to be here to explain our work and let you know some of the activities we've participated in. In mid-October, I did join Lieutenant Governor Pinnell's city tour, workforce tour, and went to Collinsville, where, and on this tour, community members have the opportunity to discuss workforce issues. So I was glad to be there. Collinsville is one of our aviation high schools. Some of the questions about jobs, availability, those kinds of things. So that was good. I enjoyed that very much. We followed that on October 23rd with the ground breaking at OAA. You see a rendering there on the screen of what the new high school will look like there at Westheimer. That's the outside, obviously, of the building, but I enjoyed looking at the rendering inside. It's the hallway, one says Terminal A and the other Terminal B. It's a really cool layout of what this new school is going to be like. Commissioner Ritz was there, and it was a nice... somebody put a lot of thought into the design of that school, and I couldn't help thinking how fun that would be, that would be your home base, your school. So we're excited about that. You see some of the legislators that were there. It was a nice crowd. That's the superintendent, Miglorano, there, and the head of director of OAA, Terry Adams, and there they are breaking ground. It was about 110 degrees that day. I thought we were going to lose some people, but they broke the ground. So that was good. I also had the opportunity, or we did, to have a collaborative meeting with Rose State University and Oklahoma City Public Schools. It was a very positive meeting. I don't know if you're aware, but Rose State College has taken really an interest in building aerospace and aeronautics as part of their programming. They have the new Tannenbaum cybersecurity building. They're hosting our AOPA summer training this summer. They sponsored our student hangar at Women in Aviation and did a fabulous job. So we've really been partnering, and what I enjoyed about this meeting with Oklahoma City Public was Rose State offering to them, what can we do to help you? We have a lab. You know, how could we bring Star Spencer, some of these area schools, into the fold to know more about aerospace and aviation. So it was just an introductory meeting, but it went very well. I have another call with Oklahoma City Public Schools this afternoon, so I'm hopeful that we'll get to move forward there. We've also had numerous school visits. I'm sure you saw, if you looked at your agenda, Emerson South High School, Oklahoma City Public, Stringtown Public Schools, Sayre Public Schools, Clinton Public Schools, Davis, Mosley, Mounds, Elk City, Blair, Bishop McGinnis, and Tecumseh yesterday. So the work continues, and the calls are coming. Tell us about this, what's going on. You know, we want to know more. How can we implement? What would this look like for us? So those were the school visits. And then finally, Stephanie and I had the opportunity to attend the AOPA National High School STEM Symposium in Atlanta in November. And at the conference, one of the first things they throw up there is the high school distribution list for AOPA high schools. It's exciting to look at that map and then immediately have everyone in the audience turn around and Stephanie will, I'm sure, echo this, but tell us what's going on. Tell us how this is working and how did we and you make this happen. And so that was a good conference. I had the opportunity to present in 2 breakout sessions. We had they're not all in the picture, but we had right at 50 Oklahoma teachers at the National Symposium, by far more than any other state represented there in Atlanta. So those are some of the folks that are doing your work, and it's a pleasure to be able to work with them on a daily basis. I'll be certainly happy to answer any questions or any comments.
Any questions, comments? Seeing none. Okay, on to item 18, Bessie Coleman Aviation All-Stars Program.
Yes, if you recall last year, we did a field test program in 2 elementary schools. Pryor Elementary, one of the Pryor Public Schools elementary schools, and Weatherford Public Schools. And in that program, the students had a 9-week after school, 1 day a week aviation program. It was it took some coordination, but the Pryor kids would get on the Zoom call and the Weatherford kids would get on the Zoom call, and the pilot would speak to them. The kids had the opportunity. It was a pilot from O'Hare, someone from FAA in Washington, D.C. We had numerous people join the Zoom call, and then the students could ask questions. It was as if it were live, but of course it was Zoom. Then they had the opportunity, and we helped them with supplies. Each week they would hear the speaker, and then they had the opportunity to do a hands-on activity, build a rocket, build a balsa plane, do various things to stimulate their interest and work on their STEM skills. So that went beautifully. At the end of the 9-week period, Gigi Coleman, that you've heard us talk about before, and there she is on screen, which is Bessie Coleman's great niece, came, and Stephanie and I took her to Pryor, and she did an assembly for Pryor kids that had participated, and they all got a t-shirt and were excited to meet her. And then we went to Weatherford. And you know me, I'm an emotional person anyway, but I kind of had a moment that day. I went in the gym at the General Thomas P. Stafford Elementary School in Weatherford, and we rounded the corner as you go in, and they've renamed that school after General Stafford. But as you go in, his memorabilia is in a big case there. So I had just finished looking at that, went in the gymnasium, and there's 400 little munchkins sitting in the gym floor there. And in came Gigi Coleman, the great niece of Bessie Coleman. And I think, how cool is this that our kids are living in a place where the history of aviation and aerospace is so strong. So our goal last year was just a field test. I put together some curriculum. We built it and hoped it would work, and I really feel like it did. I really feel like we created some interest. Pryor, of course, is one of our 5 high schools of aviation excellence, and Weatherford is so strong. And so they were happy to field test it. What we're asking your consideration for this year is for McAllister Public Schools and Ada City Schools to be able to participate in this program as it was run last year. And where the funds requested, $2,500, are the supplies, the hands-on activities, the things needed to run that 9-week program. I'll obviously stand for any questions.
Any questions? Move to approve. Have a motion to approve.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
Chairman Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 19, 2025 sponsorships and memberships consent docket. Director Arley, Sandra Shelton.
Morning, Commissioners. I thought about what I wanted to visit with you about today on these memberships. When the legislature designated us as a department, it moved us into a new era of governing. And this is the time when we bring kind of our agenda to you as commissioners to consider partnerships and trade shows that we're going to attend in the year of 2025. The legislature has moved us into a position beyond airports into all of aerospace. And so we're excited to bring these partnerships to you, knowing that our commission governs us, and we want you to be aware of the work that we're doing in the community, but also we need your guidance on this. And so I would ask you to consider these things carefully. And so the first one is the Oklahoma Airport Operators Association for a $6,500 partnership with them, and Select Oklahoma for $2,500, a sponsorship of $10,000 for Aero Oklahoma, and also a $10,000 sponsorship with the Oklahoma National Guard regarding UAS and unmanned. As a leader in the industry, we are looked to by the legislature and also the aviation community. I will tell you this, that we're a 15-person agency. A lot of the programs that we do, it's me, it's Paula, it's Michelle, it's Tanya. Tanya ran the Firehouse panel discussion for the first time ever at Women in Aviation. It's not a large staff. We are not the size of OMES. We're just out there hustling every day. We work all the time trying to grow the aviation and aerospace industry. And so when we look at these partnerships for Aero Oklahoma, I looked on our Eventbrite, and they keep all the data. You know, we talk about statistics and return on investment and all of the data. And we've served over 12,000 Oklahomans just through our Eventbrite signups. And I've worked for the agency for 8 years, and we've done 32 different events since I started measuring it with Eventbrite. So I bring this to you today for your consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions and open to discussion.
Any questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve item 19?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner Potter,
Aye.
Chairman Ortega,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 20, partnerships with Oklahoma Department of Commerce for 2025 conferences and trade shows consent docket.
So the Department of Commerce has listed on their website their 2025 trade shows. And so Director Arties and Chris have developed this item 20A, Vertical Association International Heli Expo Partnership for $5,000, the Space Symposium for $5,000, MRO Americas Conference for $5,000, the Association for Uncrewed Vehicle Systems International, AUVSI, $5,000, the Paris International Air Show for $10,000, the Experimental Aircraft Association EAA Air Venture in Oshkosh for $5,000, and the National Business Aviation Association Conference for $5,000. And I will just speak to this too, especially at NBAA, that has really brought about some powerful relationships. Also at NBAA, Oklahoma made the first opening remarks. When they opened the entire show, the keynote talked about Oklahoma and the aviation renaissance happening in our state, the work that Paula and Stephanie are doing with our schools. So we are making an impact, and I would yield for any questions, and I'm happy to answer any questions about any of these shows.
Out of all the shows that we've done, do we have any numbers back on the economic impact for what it's actually done for the state of Oklahoma?
So I think that those numbers, Commissioner Hunter, would come from the Department of Commerce. I do not have any of those numbers. You and I have talked about this kind of offline, and we would have to request those numbers from the Department of Commerce.
I would make a motion that we need to break these out because I cannot support the Paris International Air Show. We sent.
And which one?
The Paris Air Show. We sent Grayson last year. It's a cost of $10,000. The state of Oklahoma sent a total of 40 delegates to the Paris Air Show. If it costs $10,000 apiece, that's $400,000. How many European or French companies relocated to Oklahoma as a result of that $400,000 expenditure? And I think I can answer that without having to go to the Department of Commerce, and that answer would be zero. And again, I cannot harp loudly enough on the fact that we have a fiduciary duty to our taxpayers. And I would see the Paris Air Show as a complete junket and government vacation for government employees. I don't have a lot of faith in what Department of Commerce has been doing lately. fact, I would prefer that we be able to break these other shows out and do them as Department of Aerospace and Aeronautics without partnering with Commerce.
Commissioner, I certainly value the enthusiasm that we can do these shows ourselves, and certainly would look to the future to maybe do a crawl, walk, run approach to potentially being able to do some of those shows on our own. What I will tell you, having attended these shows myself, is of all the shows, I would say the best, the top two shows in terms of company visits, company interest in the state of Oklahoma is the International Air Show that alternates between Paris and Farnborough and MRO Americas. For the GA world, obviously that would be NBAA and Oshkosh. You'll note here that, you know, the shows that we listed, those are the ones we believe are the most valuable as a department. We don't go to every single commerce show. We don't go to the Air and Space Forces Association. We don't go to MRO Europe. We don't go to the Australian Air Show. We don't go to the Army Show in DC. These are the shows that we believe have the best ROI. Commissioner, I have asked Commerce multiple times for the numbers that you've asked me for as I've stood before you presenting these items in the past.
And they've provided nothing.
And they, as you and I have discussed, believe that's proprietary information and like to keep it close hold.
Nope.
I disagree, but what I will tell you is that of all the companies that have relocated to Oklahoma over the last probably 15 years, the majority of those companies were found at the Paris or the Farnborough International Air Show. And that is where we have the most meetings. It's where we have the most amount of conversations with various aerospace and aviation companies. And like I said, following that is MRO Americas. That usually happens around Dallas, Chicago, Atlanta, Orlando, West Coast locations. So I would say that, you know, whether it's a Kratos, whether it's a PASS MRO in Bristow, whether it's any one of the companies that Commerce has recruited to the state of Oklahoma, I would say better than half of those were started off as a lead out of the Paris or Farnborough shows.
Fantastic.
Again,
Who moved here from, as a result of the Paris show last year?
well, that's not really how economic development works. It's not you go to the show and the next year someone moves. So if you look at Kratos as an example, the Kratos connection, even though they're a U.S.-based company, Kratos connection was caused by a show many years prior to their moving here in Oklahoma in 2018. That lead probably took 3 to 5 years from the time we met to the time it actually took place and actually made the movement. These economic development projects, occasionally we do get lucky and it is a 1 year, you know, go here, meet, and then they move.
Okay,
But
Kratos aside, out of the past 5 years, how many companies have relocated to Oklahoma as a result of the Paris Air Show?
That's the questions we've asked from Commerce. And I can tell you several companies, PASS MRO, My Defense, several companies that have been announced that have come here. And I've asked for the list and they just haven't given it to us.
If it's proprietary information, you don't get to ask for money from us unless you open up the kimono and show that proprietary information.
Understand the...
You have to justify the expenditure you're asking for.
I understand. What I would say is, from a department standpoint, now that we are the department, now that we do represent aerospace, if we are not there, the question is going to be asked, is the state of Oklahoma not all in on aerospace? And the question we have to ask ourselves as a department is, do we want to be there to start serving those companies? Do we want to be there to have those conversations? Or do we want to sit on the sidelines and wait?
I would love to be there. Tell Commerce they need to give us what we need, give us the tools we need to make an informed decision.
And, you know, I would also love to have Commerce provide us other information that we've asked for over the years that Sandra and I have talked about many a time. But at the end of the day, I still believe it's valuable for the agency to be at these shows, not all the shows, but these shows in particular, because I think that is the targeted shows that our agency gets the best bang for our buck out of. And yes, I do agree at some point in time, maybe we would take over one of these shows. Maybe we do have the conversation about doing an Oshkosh or doing an NBAA or doing an AUVSI from the unmanned perspective. Certainly something that I think the team can do. Just something we have to learn about and do the crawl, walk, run approach.
I will support every one of the domestic air shows. However, I'm not supporting Paris unless Commerce gives us the information we've been asking for. In business, U.S. Fleet, my company, does roughly 15 trade shows a year. And we only go to those trade shows based on what we've learned from prior years. Sometimes they're not worth continuing with a specific show. Sometimes a new show opens and we do an experiment and we see if it's worth attending. Not every air show is worth going to. Not every trade show is worth attending. Some are, some aren't. And an intelligent company makes those decisions based on the return. But we don't have the information to make intelligent decisions.
Our cost with partnership with Commerce is significantly reduced. I mean, you look at some of these costs to go to Paris, right, for a booth. I mean, the booth is probably 15. So we're.
Yeah, if we're gonna go on our
entry
own.
cost versus going on our own are substantially reduced by tagging, by joining
Correct. I
together.
mean, if you look at the entirety of the booth spaces that all these shows represent, you know, it's divvied up significantly
Right.
compared to doing it on our own.
But I need Commerce to play ball.
And I would.
Commerce needs to play nicely.
And I would say, Commissioner, if we could potentially, in the coming weeks and months, have a strategy session on how you could help us unlock some of that information, I'd be happy to use your imprimatur to help us do that, because
I
that's.
will help any way I can.
At the end of the day, you and I have this conversation every year, and I make the ask every year, and then
And I
I'm
keep
getting
honoring
the-
it every year, but I'm
Yeah.
about at the end of my rope. If Commerce doesn't cough up the information, I'm out.
Yeah, I hear you. So let's make a concerted effort to try and do that through some back channels.
I think definitely getting that, you know, feedback and data would be helpful for us. But I feel, you know, we personally, our company, we go to these shows. We've been to Paris and we go to NBAA every year. And for me to send 2 or 3 of my team members, I mean, we're way over this cost. So I feel like these are definitely reasonable for, you know, being able to partner with them. So, yeah.
These are reasonable, but with the education programs, we ask them to justify their program, and why should we give you X number of dollars?
Commissioner Potter, you have a
Thus
comment?
far, Commerce has never given us justification. After all that we've given them, they don't, after a decade or more, they haven't given us the numbers to justify.
Ladies first.
I'm understanding that you, of all of these, this is what you think gives us the best bang for the buck of all the ones. So this is by no means every conference that we could be.
Correct, yeah, this is 7 out of the 11 that Commerce has on their website.
All right, so including Paris, again, and I appreciate where Commissioner Hunter is coming from, but when you're coming to us, these are the ones that you think, in your opinion, and what you know is the best use of our money.
But based on experience and having gone there personally to see it, yes, I do believe these are the 7 highest valued aviation shows that the state of Oklahoma can go to.
All right, thanks.
To do these on our own is just cost prohibitive.
Oh, yeah.
We wouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean,
We wouldn't do any of it.
we can't, any of them.
Then the question
Right.
is, should we? I mean, at that point.
I agree.
yeah, yeah.
And now, Commerce is a different,
Animal.
they can, but again, if we're going to be in the aviation business of recruiting business to Oklahoma, I mean, all you got to do is go to Tulsa International and Jones, and the amount of business that's at those 2 airports alone is just incredible. I mean, I'm talking about just business. So, I mean, I think we have to be at certain places. Now, I get what you're saying.
Show me an ROI.
I know, I get what
Okay.
you're saying. Paris is, I'm sure it costs more than $10,000 to go to Paris, so.
Yeah, what I would say, you know, from a show standpoint, most of the shows have anywhere from 10, 15, 20 meetings set up throughout the course of, you know, the 2 to 3 days. What I would say at the Farnborough Paris Air Show, that number is 60, 70, 80, sometimes even 90 meetings over the course of those days. And it's because of how much activity is happening there. It is the largest air show in the world. And just the amount of companies and the amount of opportunities there, that's why it's valuable to go. It always has been the most valuable show in terms of recruiting companies to the state and creating those economic development leads that obviously then commerce and local EDOs then follow up on. So, and again, I'm happy to utilize each one of your, you know, political connections to help unlock some of this out of commerce. It's been a frustration of mine for many years, even pre-ACES program. I know my predecessor had problems with commerce trying to get information out of them. But at the end of the day, the shows will still happen whether we're there or not. And I think if we're not there, then that is a negative impact to our agency in terms of the ability for us to represent the state and represent the programs that we have as a department.
I think the only way you're going to get the money or get the information out of commerce is to hold the money and hold the purse strings as the weapon.
With all due respect, Commissioner, if we chose not to go, Commerce would still go and they still wouldn't provide us the data. 110% right now will tell you that they will
Is
still
there
go.
not an FOIA request that can be filed? I
Yeah.
think they have to turn that information over.
Maybe.
I don't think they have a choice.
Well, Commerce does have many exceptions to the Open Record Act, and that's been one of the challenges. Is won't say I've said those words, but that's one of the things that they will discuss is that, you know, well, project leads are not open record, you know, requirements, that sort of thing.
Okay, so Commissioner Hunter, is it still your desire to consider item E, section E separately?
No, I'll approve the entire thing, but
Very good,
without numbers, this is the last year I'm going to approve it.
very good.
Won't happen again. So next year, when you wonder why, thank Commerce.
Okay. So next year, we'll be able to
Yep.
move on with it. So okay, so do I have a motion to approve item 20?
So moved.
Have a
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
Chairman Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Aye.
Okay, motion's approved. On to item 21, review of aerospace conferences, trade shows. Director Artie, Sandra Shelton, you are recognized.
Before I continue, can I just say that we all know that Paula is your favorite, and next year she'll be doing that item. Thank you, Commissioners. Goodness gracious, let's move on. National Business Aviation Association Annual Conference. This year, Senator Haste came with us. Senator Haste flew in for the day, and we took him all over that trade show floor. This is Lufthansa with Senator Haste, Director Artie's Jennifer Hoffman, Alexis Higgins, Tulsa International, Brent Wright with Oklahoma Commerce, and Daniel Regan with Tulsa International. Here we have Consolidated Turbine Services out of Bristow. That was at NBAA. That's Bump Grant and his team with Senator Haste. And next slide, please. This is Covington Aircraft and with Senator Haste and Alexis Higgins. There are many Oklahoma companies at National Business Aviation Association. And I do want to say something about NBAA. We have really had some strong friendships come out of that. And because Senator Haste was with us that day, I called our friend Steve over there at NBAA, and he said, hey, let me help you. He set us up with appointments with Joby, we saw all kinds of different companies that we would have never gotten into the door with. So those relationships do matter. And then they invited us to the keynote luncheon, and Director Arties, we were all walking in, and they didn't know where they were going to seat us, and it turns out they kind of set us to the side. And Grayson looked up and he said, "Well, I see you're all wearing microphones." It was at the speaker's table where we sat with AAM leaders from across the United States. So those relationships do matter, and the Department of Aerospace and Aeronautics is out there exhausting themselves. We do not sit in the booth at these trade shows. I can tell you that when Grayson, myself, Paula, Nick, somebody goes, we are out there. If the booth is slow, we are out there making those connections and making our own business connections. So for the Oklahoma Aerospace Forum that was held November 12th, it looks like they had a good show. I think this is us visiting with Joby. But the Aerospace Forum held by the ACES program, I think they had a good show. Director, you want to say anything on that?
The Aerospace Forum, I know Sandra was out that week, and I was just able to attend the main show where we had one of Jim Bridenstine's friends from the Space Force that gave the Space Force procurement strategy on how DoD is tapping into private sector companies to help support the Space Force and the standing up of the Space Force. And so it was a different speaker. It was certainly interesting to hear and listen over at the Omni. I know there was a litany of breakout sessions, and Doug, who's not here today, but he was on one of the panels regarding advanced technologies, and so he gave the UAS AAM perspective on behalf of the department. And I know we had several entities that were there, Katie, Nick, and others that were there supporting from the agency's perspective. So it was a good show, as it always has been since it's come back in 2018, I think was the first year back. And so it's good to see, and certainly a good conference opportunity for all the aerospace individuals of the state of Oklahoma to get together and talk about the latest trends and hear from some national leaders.
I'll yield for questions.
Any questions? Item 22, please, review of aerospace events and activities.
Commissioner Ortega, I'm going to bring Chris up if that's okay.
Very good. I like Chris.
Is he your favorite?
So, Commissioners, the end of October, I had the pleasure of attending the 2024 Oklahoma Commanders Summit. This year's summit was hosted by Colonel Rosetta out at Tinker Air Force Base. The purpose of this summit is for the installation commanders from each of the military bases in the state to come together and discuss items and issues that they're experiencing on their bases and help that they may need from the state to support their missions. The end result is a letter that they draft up and each sign that will be sent to House and Senate leadership and the governor's staff, indicating ways that the state can support them to continue to be successful in their missions. I did also have the opportunity over lunch to give an overview of our agency, talk about some of our initiatives, whether it be UAS, our aviation education program, the OMA Camp Military Training Airspace program, and how what we're doing supports them, and received quite a bit of feedback after that and support from them and gratefulness of what we're doing. So really good experience and just be able to build some connections and hear some of the issues that they're facing and how we may be able to support them. So happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you, Chris. Okay, item 23, Oklahoma Women in Aviation and Aerospace Day.
Oh, I was going to present on 22B.
22, yes, go ahead.
It was that week was a hodgepodge of trying to piecemeal together. Normally, Sandra, I, and Chris would attend the Commander Summit, but of course, Sandra and I were at NBAA, and then I happened to hop over somewhere else. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Enid ground woodring ceremony was on November 20th, where we had the dedication for the hangar and other projects that they have going up there at Woodring. And I know Commissioner Putnam flew in, Commissioner Rainey. He may have flown in on four wheels, depending on how fast he was going. But Commissioner Rainey would have the opportunity to take up Senator Haste. But this was an opportunity to celebrate their new joint use hangar. And the large apron, the military use apron, where they stock and store some of their T-38s, T-1s, and T-6s when those aircraft come over from the base. For those of you that don't know, right now Woodring has its main runway shut down, so they're down to one runway. And so they relocate to Enid Woodring and do all their sorties over there. Not only does it keep them operational and they don't miss a beat, as we heard from the commander, but it also saves them money because they're able to take advantage of resources and not have as much staff at the base. Obviously, they have a lot of contracting staff, so it saves them some cash and some coin there at the base by being able to move over to Woodring. And of course, Woodring loves it because they get money from fuel sales and activity there at the airport. So again, a little light on the review of aerospace events and activities, but I can promise you that in 2025, this item will be very populous. So now I will stand for any questions that you might have of me.
Any questions, comments? Okay,
Thank
thank you, sir. Now on to item 23.
Well, I'm back, Commissioners. But Paula will be joining me, so there is hope. So I just wanted to tell you, first of all, Oklahoma Women in Aviation Day is the hardest thing that we do all year. This year, we had over 100 volunteers build the event for 3 days. Over 75 Air National Guard members assisted us. And we had 1,300 people at the 138th Fighter Wing. It was an incredible day. We had four venues that we ran. So we had the VIP reception that was held in the DFAC, which is the dining facility of the base. This is Colonel Nicole Malachowski, and she was our keynote speaker. She is the first female Thunderbird pilot. She was absolutely incredible, just incredible, and inspiring, and worked with us all throughout the day. She spoke in 3 different venues. Not only did she greet everyone in the VIP reception that morning, then she went and she spoke to the students, and Paula will speak to that in just a minute, and then she also served as our keynote during the main event, which you can see here. We had 4 fighter jets in the hangar, just a beautiful display. We want to thank all of our partners. Our staff, Commissioners, was tireless this year. They really were outstanding. Michelle Bozaiden, do not get in her way. You will be hurt. And she was just fantastic. And let's see, this is Kelly Hudson. I met Kelly Hudson on a plane to Oshkosh. So it's really important to make those connections. Kelly Hudson is the first female certificated air boss in the United States. She served as our celebrity MC. She also held my hand on the plane to Oshkosh when we had turbulence. That's how we met. She's amazing. This is Colonel Chad Phillips. He's the commander of the base there at the 138th Fighter Wing. I think you can see there, we had a crowd of 800 in this hangar and 500 students from 32 schools in the student hangar. This is the new mayor of Tulsa. This is Mayor Monroe Nichols. He's a former legislator, and he was just elected in November of 2024, and he spoke that day as well and welcomed the crowd to Tulsa. This is Colonel Abigail Ruchetta. Colonel Ruchetta is our Woman of the Year, and this is Senator Brenda Stanley and State Representative Nicole Miller, our Chair of Transportation in the House of Representatives, and they presented her with a citation, and she also spoke and gave great remarks about being Tinker proud. And I think this is where Paula steps up. But I just want to say, Commissioners, 60 companies partnered with us. This is something that we really try to fundraise. And so we're really excited about the new Aero Foundation that you've approved. And all of those companies are really pouring themselves into the Oklahoma aerospace community. And I could not have been more proud. Tanya ran the Firehouse panel. She did a beautiful job. They had about 200 people in that panel discussion, and Lieutenant Colonel Deirdre Gurry from the OSIDA Commission was our celebrity MC there. And everybody just worked so hard. And even Chris, everyone, even Director Artie's loaded stuff when we were cleaning up, which was really nice of him. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to do this. You know, we do this in honor of Pearl Carter Scott. December 9th is her birthday. Monday was Oklahoma Women in Aviation and Aerospace and State Law. Senate Bill 230 was passed in 2017, and I was supposed to go flying that day, but the weather was not good, so I did not get to go flying. But next year. So Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity. I'll turn this over to Paula. I do want to say also, and this is timely, the Department of Commerce did give us a congratulatory certificate. So we do thank them for that, and they are very, very gracious to do that for us, and we are grateful for that.
I'll just echo what Sandra said. We did have 2 separate events that became one. The students were in a hangar adjacent to the larger hangar. They had their own program. When they arrived that morning, they got to visit static. Oh, you click them. They got to view some static exhibits, but they also got to look at ammunition and talk to some of the 138th pilots. So they had a big day. The colonel was the keynote address in the junior hangar as well with the kids. And I told Commissioner Ritz this morning one of the funniest things that happened. I had the microphone and I would run around the room and let the students ask the question. And one little girl stood up and she said, "Colonel, I have a real serious question, but I'm going to ask it in a second. My first question is, did you say you were 50 years old?" And she said, "Yes." And she goes, "What is your skincare routine?" So that made the colonel's day. She thought those kids were awesome. This is the junior hangar, and you'll see those Rose State helped us set the tables, put the bags. Jim Bridenstine also addressed the kids. But the highlight for me, and I think for a lot of people, and you see them there out at the exhibits, was at the end, we asked every school to develop a school aviation flag. And then at the end, we took the students in a line over to the main banquet, to the main hangar, and we paraded them through the banquet event space with drums and music, and the people leapt to their feet. It was so, you want to address that, Commissioner Ritz? I thought.
Well, if you ever want to see what our future looks like, and I was telling Paula, think back 5 or 7 years ago, we didn't have any of that. And each school was represented, and they kept coming, and they kept coming. And the flags were flying, and there was so much excitement about aviation, and all it took was to look around and realize this is something we've all had a part in, but it's happening. And it's, I mean, I don't think there was anybody in the room that wasn't just totally blown away by that.
We had some leadership from AOPA there, and he looked at me and he said, "I've never seen anything where a state had partners with industry and partners with their universities and all of this growing together." So it was very fun for me to be able to lead that parade, and Stephanie, and to let the kids, there's the group picture, some of the flags that they developed. And again, that's just a drop in the bucket. They all can't come from southwestern Oklahoma and get to Tulsa in time in the morning for an event like this. So this is just a small portion of the students that we serve, but it was a really, really good day. So we appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'd just like to comment, for those of you who didn't get to go, these folks did us proud. I mean, as the Aeronautics Commission, and just, it was, I asked each of them today if they have recovered, and I could see it's going to take you a while. I mean, everybody on the commission was all in, and each year it gets bigger and better, but this is a huge initiative. I'm just thinking, we talked last year about upgrading the sound system, all the things that go on. It's first class, and it shows. So you guys outdid yourself.
Thank you. Item 24, preview of upcoming aviation airspace events. You are recognized.
Commissioners, I'll be brief. There's several Santa fly-ins over the next 2 weeks. There is a fly-in at Stillwater, Guthrie Edmond Regional, and I think Lawton is having one. So I had to look at Grayson because I had to think about that. So I would yield for any questions, and for brevity, I am going to move off of this item. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay. If not, item 25, Director's Report. Director Art, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Back to item 23. It really was truly phenomenal to see the team come together and you know, the team of 15, but we couldn't do it. I mean, we had 100+ guard members there volunteering their time to help us out. We had other agencies, other entities helping us out and volunteering their efforts. You know, we keep scratching our heads every year like, well, how are we going to outdo ourselves next? And we keep doing it, but I really am going to be interested to see how we could do it next year. It's unique, and so I just want to say I think the staff deserves a round of applause for their efforts. On to item 25. So as I'd mentioned, that fourth week in October was a busy week. While we were at NBAA, I also had a leadership program. As you know, I'm part of the Air Force Material Command, which is the MAGCOM that oversees Tinker Air Force Base. Went through the Tinker Air Force Base leadership program several years ago. I graduated and got upgraded to the Material Command Leadership Program. We go to 2 different installations every year, and then this year we went to Warner Robins in Georgia to see how Warner Robins does things there, one of the 3 depots as part of the Air Force Sustainment Center, obviously Tinker being the headquarters command, but then Warner Robins, Georgia, and Hill in Utah, and had an opportunity to go there after my day at NBAA and see what Warner Robins does. And we actually brought a few ideas home from that meeting, but I can say this, that no one does it like Oklahoma does. And even though they rolled out the red carpet in Georgia, and even though they did some amazing things, it makes you proud to see that Oklahoma still leads the way when it comes to base support, and just so thankful for that we have Tinker in all of our military installations here in Oklahoma. Naseo Airports, as you know, I'm the committee chair for the Airports Planning Operations Development Committee. We had our meeting on November 8th. For the fourth quarter, had a good opportunity to talk with my airports members about issues and challenges. The AIP handbook, which I know we've talked about here, is the guidebook for how we implement FAA funds, and of course they have some interesting interpretations, they being FAA, and so we're constantly trying to figure out ways that the states can make recommendations to the FAA to improve that handbook. Item C, along with the items that Nick had mentioned earlier that we're helping as an agent, went and spoke to the Shawnee City Commission, where they, after they had given us the authority to act as their agent to develop their CIP, presented a draft CIP on November 18th. I'm actually going back for the approval next Monday on December 16th. You all have approved the contract between us and MITRE. I think MITRE is a federally funded research and development organization. If you've ever heard of MIT Lincoln Labs up in Boston, MITRE is a very similar organization to MIT Lincoln Labs. They're a little bit more on the engineering and development side. MIT Lincoln Labs is a little bit more on the futuristic and actual implementation of those technologies. Had a kickoff for how they can help the state implement our radar and UAS infrastructure program. Had conversations with them about how we're going to do the Burns Flat radar system on November 19th, and obviously followed that on immediately by the kickoff with Kratos and Vigilant Aerospace for that first phase of radar development out there in western Oklahoma. On November 20th, I presented to the advisory board meeting what I had presented to the city commission meeting on the 18th, and just made sure to get their input from an advisory board standpoint. On December 2nd, we had a meeting with Vigilant, MITRE, and Kratos to ensure that we had the partner who we're developing this UAS system for out in western Oklahoma being Kratos, making sure that they were on board with our timelines and making sure they're going to have the aircraft ready to fly when we need them to fly once the radars get installed. And then Doug was actually out there on the 5th doing a site evaluation where Kratos and Vigilant were able to meet. And then last but not least, yesterday I was at the State Chamber's State of the Business Forum. They had a lady from CNBC who's an economist, and she provided some very insightful, I won't say forecasting because she just claims she's not a forecaster, but some very insightful economic trends for where the country is headed based on the election, based on the future of the housing market, the manufacturing industry and all kinds of interesting part. But the most exciting part of the State Chamber Business Forum was getting to meet all the freshman lawmakers that were in attendance. And there were a significant amount of freshman lawmakers, and getting to really kind of kick off the start of the legislative session for 2025. So that concludes my director's report, but I'll certainly stand for any questions or comments that you might have.
Any questions, comments? Seeing none, thank you, Director. Next order of business is item 26, proposed executive session pursuant to Title 25, Section 307B4 of the Oklahoma statutes concerning Hutchison versus State, where council has determined that disclosure of information related to litigation will seriously impair the ability of the board to process or conduct litigation in this matter, provided that any action taken shall be an open session. I will entertain a motion to convene into executive session.
Motion.
Okay, motion.
Second.
Second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
Chairman Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. At this time, would like to request that all meeting guests, except for the commissioners, director Arties, and agency counsel, exit the room. We will send someone to the lobby to notify you when we are returning to open session. Ready? All right, I'll accept a motion to convene back into open session.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
Chairman Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Okay. On to item number 27.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any other concluding remarks other than appreciate all your all's support in terms of the things that we have going on as an agency as we close out 2024. We knew it was going to be a long meeting, so we did not do our usual end of year slate. So we'll bring that to you at the January meeting, kind of the review, year in review, 2024 year in review in January. So that'll be coming in January. And please remember, as I'm sure you'll remind them in the next item, that it's 9 a.m. starting in the new year, not 10 a.m. So set your alarm clocks to the appropriate time.
Okay.
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Item 28, announcement of a next meeting. Our next meeting scheduled, our next scheduled special meeting will be at 9 a.m. on Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025, here in the first floor conference room at the Oklahoma Department of Transportation. Item 29, any new business? Okay, seeing none, I have to accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Have a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
Chairman Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Aye.
Motion passes. We are adjourned.
Have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.